We're on.
Okay.
All right. Well, welcome. I guess we have to cram 2 meetings into one.
We
The
are.
schedule got a little bit changed. So the first thing on the agenda is to approve meeting minutes of March 12th. Do we have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to
Thanks,
approve.
Cheryl.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. The next thing is to accept the meeting minutes of March 19th for review.
Move to accept.
Thanks, Scott.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. So review and vote on the fiscal year 27 budget for town meeting. Do you want to walk us through?
Yeah, so, hi, everyone.
Hi,
Welcome.
David.
So I always place or create an executive summary that goes to the Board of Selectmen. I am tasked that once all the budgets come in, Mary, you'll remember this, is that I go through all the budgets, put together a balanced budget, submit it to the board, with my recommendations with an explanation. The board then takes a vote, and then it is the Board of Selectmen's approved budget that actually comes to you. So you're looking at that. In this case, it happens to be the same, but that has not always been the case. In the Finance Committee book, there will be 3 budgets that will be presented. There will be the budget request from the department. Next to that is the Board of Selectmen's approved budget, and next to that is the Finance Committee recommended budget. And it is the Finance Committee's recommended budget, because that is your motion, that is read at town meeting. So we're actually a little bit more transparent, because most other towns don't show all that. They just show the recommended from FinCom. So this is the backup as to how we got there. So I'll just quickly go through this, because it goes over what the budget is, and obviously what we're doing this year, and, potentially some concerns moving forward as a result of it. So, to be clear, the budget that you're gonna vote on reflects 100% of all the budget requests, so everything is included. It is balancing, assuming a 2.5% levy increase, again, Proposition 2.5 at 2.5% year over year. The entire budget, which includes water, is up a little over 5%. That equates out to $2.4 million year over year. And as you can see, last year's year over year increase was 2.1 million, so that's increased a little bit. There are 5 budgets that are your major drivers. I list all 5 of them. And so although your operating budget is $49 million, 5 budgets make up 94% of it. So that's your real drivers. Your town side omnibus budget, meaning that you exclude water, because remember, water is funded not through taxation, but through the water rates. So the town side budget is up 4.76%, a total a little over $2 million year over year, which you can see is actually decelerated from last year. I made minimal changes to the budget. We'll see that in a moment, because I provide you the list. The Finance Committee Reserve Fund, which you have control over, is $67,000. We've been fortunate, we've not had to use it, but we level funded that year over year. So if anybody has extraordinary or unforeseen expenses, we have something there. Last note, in reference to the budget on the town side, is that if you just look at town budgets, you exclude non-discretionary, which is debt, insurance, and benefits, then the town side operating budget is up $483,000, or only at 3.8%, which is pretty modest and I think pretty responsible, and mostly driven really by 2 departments, which is police and fire. We know that because the previous page shows that those 2 departments are up $300,000, just those 2. School budgets. The school committee voted, and you'll see this in the reduction sheet, is that they voted on April 6th to reduce their budget by $72,000, which represented the salary of the media specialist, meaning they chose as a committee not to fund it, not to fill it, and not to add it this year. And I want to say thank you to the school committee. We met, obviously you guys met with them. Subsequent to that, there was a meeting that obviously included myself, but Jeff Ryan is chair of selectmen. Jan, you were there. Kathy Grant from the school, Mark Bodwell from the school, and 2 school committee members, which was JP and Robin. And so we met, and quite frankly, it was just a holistic, high-end conversation about where we're going as a town, recognizing that many other towns are in trouble, which we're gonna see in a moment, and that the one thing I just don't think that we should be advocating for is new hires, unless they're absolutely entirely necessary. So in their budget, they have retained still hiring a school nurse. It's a half an FTE, but they feel like it is critically important for them to do, and so that has been retained. So I wanted to say thank you, because taking that information, they went back, both Robin and JP did, and then the school committee voted to remove it, which I think was good. So therefore, the local schools budget is increased 4.5% year over year, which is the lowest increase in the past 5 years.
Did they add a reading teacher though, at 1.0?
So they did this current year. I don't believe it's in the, I don't honestly remember that in the current budget, but if they did,
I think
they
it
did.
was a part of a reading specialist they might have
I
put in
was
this
just
year.
remembering their presentation.
Yeah, I think there was a part of a reading specialist. I don't have my notes with me,
It
but.
was occupational therapist was
Yeah,
part.
some hours for an occupational
Correct, there was some FTE
therapist,
hours
some
included,
FTE hours for reading, and then some FTE hours
And a
for,
new aid. New
I
aid
believe, music.
music was
yeah.
part.
Yeah, just like extra hours, it wasn't like a full person.
And the nurse at 0.5 would incur benefits too, is that right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So how about this? I'm gonna say it this way, because I don't wanna say something wrong. Whatever they were hiring, the one person they did not hire is the media specialist.
Yeah.
So that way,
That's just postponed, I understand.
most likely that's correct. But for this year,
Yeah.
so from an operational budget standpoint, that means the local school makes up about 58% of the operating budget. And then I also want to mention Southeastern.
Yeah,
Southeastern kind of bailed us out,
Yeah.
to be honest with you.
surely did.
Because their request actually went down 90,000, or about 8%. And so I only make this extra note so you know it, is that let's assume that Southeastern's, say they had level funding, because remember, they lost some enrollment. But let's assume their enrollment stayed the same or went up 1. If they had a 4.5% increase in their budget, that means that would have been a $140,000 difference. The difference between the $90,000 reduction and the increase, and we would be out of balance, $140,000. So we'd be cutting something or figuring out,
Finding
the money.
yeah.
So that helped. But I ask everybody to keep in mind that because of the new DESI regulations about open enrollment, that it really does become an honest wild card moving forward. It's impossible to budget for it.
Because of the way
the
they
lottery
enroll, yeah, the lottery.
Yeah, because now it's a flat-out lottery.
Yeah,
So if we have, right now, because based on percentage of the 9 communities.
Right.
But if West Bridgewater put in 18 additional, and all 18 were picked, we've asked that question. We met with the state delegation, and we said, what happens if all of a sudden everyone got picked? And it was like 4 million.
Yeah.
We could come up with the money. And you can't come up with, because you don't get the budget presentation from the schools until March. The budget starts July 1st.
Yep.
How do you come up with $4 million in 3 months?
Right.
You play the lottery. Sorry.
They can't answer the question.
Right.
And I don't think that
That's- yeah,
anybody's
it's
interested in
ridiculous.
answering that question. I
Yeah.
think they're just hoping that, but that crisis
Doesn't happen.
situation is going to hit a town
It will.
somewhere in
Yeah.
this state.
yeah.
Hopefully it's not us. So that means if you look at just operating budget minus benefits, minus all that, our schools make up 61% of it, just so that way everybody knows. Revenue.
Hmm.
So there are multiple ways that we pay for our budget. One is obviously through the tax levy, which we'll talk about in a moment. The other is through state aid. This here is something that we really should be collectively upset about. Our state aid as of April 15th, when I wrote this and started working on it, the governor's budget had been released, and the governor's budget increase was $143,000 year over year. That's only 1% higher in Chapter 70. I mean, that doesn't stay up with inflation, that's for sure. And then the local increase called local receipts is up $20,000 or 2.5%.
Yeah, I find this especially egregious since they have the millionaire's tax, which was supposed to go to funds, schools and transportation. And, you know, we're not seeing that here, right?
From a historical perspective, it is factual that we received more aid in percentage terms and in dollars before the millionaire's tax passed.
Yeah, that's sad.
So,
Wow.
hey,
Probably because they've left the state.
Oh my gosh, I see all the clients paying it. That's a
Yeah.
lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. They're
so,
collecting a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy.
you know, a handful of years ago, our chapter 70 would go up $500,000-$600,000 a year.
Yes, yeah. So where does the money
That
go?
doesn't keep pace with the expenses by any means. no.
Look at,
This
know,
doesn't,
I think-
no.
I mean, obviously, there are some frustrations with the schools because their budget is so big. But in fairness to them, which I refer to later, some of this is entirely out of their control when it comes to spend.
Yeah.
Because the state is making some mandates, and they have changed the definition. Like, I think that the original intent to help special needs and people on IEPs, which my stepdaughters were on, I think that that was really good. Like, there was a really good intent. But those definitions have expanded over time, and obviously that costs more money. So if they're going to expand those definitions in the role of schools, then they also should be funding those.
Exactly.
And they're not. I will tell you that today is Thursday, so Tuesday, it was too late for me to revamp this, but on Tuesday, the House voted, and the House did increase Chapter 70 by about another $40,000, but then decreased our local aid by $14,000. So our local aid went up $6,000 year over year, and yet we have the millionaire's tax. Like, so, something's not right.
Yeah,
Something's not right. So as I say here, is that when you do that net, the $143,000, and then what the state charges the last handful of years has disproportionately increased as well. Those used to stay fairly flat, but the last couple of years, they've been going up higher in our percentage terms than the income has gone up. So, in this case here, according to the governor's budget, a $143,000 increase in state aid, a $45,000 increase in state charges means that you really net out only a $98,000 increase year over year. And remember on page 1, the operating budget went up 2.1 million. So that means if state aid goes up $100,000, you have to come up with $2 million. It's just disproportionate.
Yeah.
And that's why you're having more of an impact on your local tax levy. Receipts. That is a third way that we pay, and I always say historically I am conservative, and what I want to do is I want to show you the chart and explain exactly why I am and why I think it's important. So you'll see that I budgeted $3.5 million in receipts for FY27, which is what we used to balance this year. That is how much I've used the last couple of years because, quite frankly, up until FY 2022, we were always somewhere between 2.6 to 3 million, and that was a fairly steady number. So we were using that number. As we increased, I increased it a little bit, but we've seen the last 2 years a real big jump. And here's the reason why. If you look at the next page, FY 25, excise tax has jumped to $500,000. That's fantastic news. But I can tell you that if you go back, and here's just the last 4 years, they were all pretty steady around 1.7, 1.8. Like you would just, you woke up and that's what the town received. It's only the last year that we saw this jump. So the question is, that $4.9 million, I'm certainly not gonna budget. In the second, for receipts. And the second is, I don't know if this is an anomaly. I don't know if just more people bought cars. I don't know if it's because the price of the cars jumped. Like, we don't know. We're not, it's gonna take a year or two before we see.
Before it settles down,
Was this an
yeah.
off year?
I mean, I think cars have gone up a lot.
They have, but they still say the average car in Massachusetts is 11 years. So, after every year it drops. So,
Sure.
so I don't know.
Larger population in town.
Penalty and interest charges. We've
This
never
is
seen
weird.
this.
Yeah,
This
this
is people paying their stuff late.
Wow.
What is it
Like the
again,
real estate
Dave?
taxes?
It's people paying their real estate taxes late?
Real estate, excise tax, whatever it is. If you don't pay it on time, you'll get a demand charge and an interest charge.
Well,
Oh,
that's not a
wow.
good indicator for
No.
the health of the town.
It is not for the
So-
health of people's budgets. 'cause
Right.
people aren't paying it late because they want to,
Right.
in most cases.
So as you can see, that is a vast increase. So when we look at that prior page, we're like, yay, look at
Wow.
all of our receipts. Well, we don't want to be balancing it on this.
No.
And we don't
Um,
want people having to pay those interest and penalties.
And the last one is interest income. I've referred to this a couple of
Yeah.
times. So the last couple of years, interest rates we know have really been higher since they tried to scale back inflation in FY '22, 2023. So that has been a negative impact on people buying mortgages and getting cars and all that stuff. But it's been helpful if you have money in the bank and the money just sits there and accumulates.
Mhm.
But you can see only 4 years ago, we only collected 22 grand. And just to let you know, $22,000, which was much more the norm
Yeah.
than 700. So I can't balance thinking I'm gonna get 700 again. Doesn't mean it won't happen, but I can't use it,
No.
especially since right now we all know
Yeah.
there's a new Fed chief being nominated.
Yeah.
He's going in specifically to lower rates. Hopefully that will spur some other economic growth, we'll see. But at the same
But
time,
it's
that's gonna have a negative
decrease
impact on this.
yeah.
So again, I have to be conservative because I always refer to FY '21 when COVID hit. We had budgeted our normal receipts. In that year, because of COVID, everything just fell off.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the year, you can't go back and make adjustments.
No.
So I was like, from that year on, I said, we must be conservative or else we'll be in trouble. So, to sum this budget up, about $30 million of your $49 million budget proposal is coming from the tax side. And I want to be clear to let you know that at 2.5% at 30 million, just do the math, that's 750 grand. So 750,000 is all you can count on the tax side. The state's only kicking in 100 net, and you've got a $2.1 million increase. So we were very fortunate this year. We generated additional free cash because we had budgeted our receipts low the previous year. But also we had some one-time benefits, like for example, the warehouse on Lincoln Street started to come on. I know that has been a negative to some people. I do feel bad for the people who live on Lincoln Street. I'm not saying I don't. But that generated by itself about $1 million that we didn't foresee. Because whenever it hits, you don't budget.
You
You don't
don't
know
know,
exactly
yeah.
what's going to budget. So we were fortunate this year that we were able to have that additional money in free cash to transfer over. So, since I've been here in 2013, we have always taken the first $350,000 of free cash to offset it. So right now, to date, that has saved the taxpayer $4.6 million. Meaning that if we had not done that every single year, your total tax levy would have been 4.5 million more, or 4.6 million more, and your taxes would represent that. In addition to that, in order to make up that hole, which is 1.7 million, I'm transferring the difference out of free cash. So
Which
it's
is
good
not
that we
what
have
you-
it.
You
Well,
don't really like to do that.
No, it's, look at, here's what I use as an example. Every year at Christmas, Grandma gives you a check, a big check.
Yeah.
And you're like, thank God, because now I can pay my bills. And one day, Grandma's not there. Right? Or you don't get the money. What do you do? So this here is one-time money that we can't always count on.
Right. No, agreed.
So with that said, we were able to do it, we were able to use it. That's a positive because it helps everybody in town where your taxes don't have to go up more. But it's only a matter of time that if we can't continue to generate that money, have more state aid, or actual reduction in costs, we're all gonna end up what you're seeing now in this map. And so before I get there, I think it's important because based on Proposition 2.5, we are limited as to what you can bring in for revenue. And I will tell you that there is a push at the State House, honestly led by the Municipal Association, that wants to make changes to
eliminate
Proposition
Prop
2.5. I don't like that. I think everybody already gets overtaxed. My personal opinion, not everybody has to agree, but I think that's my personal opinion. And I think that too often we look at what can we do to generate more income versus what can we do to generate or save money or reduce costs. And so all I say here is state aid I mean, the state budget could increase by about another 4.5% this year. Our local aid's now going up 1%.
Right.
Chapter 70 is going up less than 2%. There's a disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
Federal grants are obviously stagnating. We
Mhm.
all know that. There's no sense in arguing about it or discussing it. We recognize that special needs costs are rising. We understand healthcare is rising. And we also understand there's always just going to be general inflationary pressures. So if all of that is true, the business model is a little broken.
It certainly is.
And so you're seeing that play out. So what I did, and I gave you a bigger map, because I know that the small one is hard to read. But I want you to understand what's going on and why we're in a much better position than others. And I think that everybody, deserves some praise for that. The Finance Committee, the Board of Selectmen, the department heads, everybody deserves some praise for that. But in FY '24 to FY '26, and I want you to keep in mind, we are in FY '26.
Right.
It is not concluded yet, so these numbers may still increase. But in that 1/3 of all of our communities in the state have gone for an override. This is not a debt exclusion to buy something, to build something. This is to pay their bills and to have it for an operational override. And so it's a little convoluted. I'll explain it to you. Is that 124 towns passed an override? 124 votes passed in 65 communities, and 94 failed in 56. So when I first was putting this map together, I thought it was going to be easy. The green means it passed, the red means it failed. But then it turned out there was a whole bunch of communities that I labeled purple that had some that passed and failed, because they went for multiple. And so there's a key in the lower right-hand side that you can see. So for example, at the extreme, you can see like Orleans had 13 override attempts in 3
Wow.
years,
And none of them passed.
and none of them passed. You can see Wellfleet, 13 of them, 2 of them passed. And you can see others have like 1 and 2s or whatever the case is. So
One override per year, David?
Nope.
or-
that is the amount of overrides that they attempted. So you can go
In
to
2 years, right? In 2 years?
3 fiscal years.
3 fiscal years.
3 years. But you're only, if you explain 2.5
Yeah.
briefly, you override once and that's it forever? Or every
No.
year you have to vote 2.5?
Okay, so let me explain
Yeah,
that. So
that's-
when you go for a vote, let's assume that you say, we want a $500,000 operational override.
Yeah.
You have to identify what the money is going to be used for, i.e. police department. That means the money, if approved, can only be allocated to police. It is now built into your base tax levy, and your 2.5% will be based on that higher amount. So when I said your tax levy is 30 million, if we went for a $500,000 override, your base levy is now 30,500,000, and next year 2.5 is
It's
now
based on that higher
is on that
amount.
higher number.
It's like compounding interest.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is built in forever.
And they can go for multiple overrides per year. You can't, you're not
Correct.
just
That's
stuck
When
with
would
my
you do
one.
question. How do you have
multiple overrides?
13 in 3 years?
Because you can put together a ballot and say, we want 250,000 for fire, we want 300,000 for police,
Oh,
we
okay.
want 400,000 for
Has
school.
to be
And
each
then they vote
individual.
on each one
That is
separately.
correct. So
Okay.
some passed, some failed. And then let's assume, like for example, Hanson, is that they go and they lose in year 1 and they go back in the next year and they say, we're gonna try, like we've had some towns that have tried multiple times.
Mm.
So that's how it works. And you can't just say, I want $1 million.
Yeah.
You have to identify what it is for, so each one is an individual override
And couldn't
request.
you do it multiple times a year? If
Absolutely.
you have a special town meeting, right? So you say, oh, you go in March,
just costs
you
more
ask
for the
for
town.
money, it doesn't pass, you could go again in September, there's nothing stopping them, right?
There is nothing stopping, and
Right.
even West Bridgewater, recall, we had an annual town meeting last year in May.
Mhm.
Yes.
We had a
did.
special in October for zoning.
Yeah.
We had a special in January for the school, and now we'll have an annual town meeting in May. So really, in essence, we had 5 town meetings in 1 year.
Mm.
And so, yeah, if a town meeting requires 14 days' notice plus the posting requirements for the board to do whatever they have to do. So in theory, you could have a town meeting every month.
What would drive you to have multiple town meetings for more money? An emergency of some kind, probably?
Yeah. Or they don't pass the first time, so they try it again later in the year.
Budget's set, but then you're coming back through the year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna name the town because but
Yeah.
recently, a town fairly close to us, went for an override. They explained as to what the repercussions would be. It failed miserably, and then the town made the cuts. And then the townspeople said, wait a second.
Yeah.
Like, we don't, like, they're not answering their phone, and they're like, we laid them off. We told you we're gonna lay them off.
Yeah.
And now they're saying, well, maybe we need to go get that vote again.
Okay.
So that happens,
Well,
you know, that happens. So, and I just finish up saying, we're trying not to be on the list. But the truth is that unless some of these costs come in order, which is really outside of our control.
Right.
And until the state actually, you know, like all MMA, for example, which I do believe that they're right, is that I do think that local aid should be somehow pegged to inflation. That if you're going to have a 3% inflation rate, then you should be getting at least a 3% increase in the state aid. That hasn't happened. Their report, I don't have the exact numbers, but it's called The Perfect Storm. It's on their website. They do an excellent job. Is that they show that when the Great Recession, the year before the Great Recession, 2007, that local aid that year is a little higher than the local aid in 2025, not pegged to inflation, but in real dollars.
In real dollar.
So I don't know how you go backward. I mean, think of what you made in 2007, and imagine if that's how much you made now, right? And somehow you're still supposed to pay your bills.
Right.
There's a disconnect. There's a real problem. So I really do, I think, you know, you guys have shown leadership, the Board of Selectmen have shown leadership, our department heads have been really, really good, and so far we've been able to stay off this list, and we'll continue to fight to try to do so. But, you know, it's obviously a collective effort to get there. So, that is the summary of the budget. Your next page shows you the changes that I made based on the presentations that you received. So I will go through them, but this specifically identifies the changes made and why. So first, in the treasurer's collector's budget, I added $10,000 to it, and the reason being is because we have a young lady who went on maternity leave, and she's gonna be out for 4 months. We only have 2 collectors, and obviously if she's out, like, we can't only have one person. So I have to backfill. Fortunately, we had a recent retiree, she's willing to come back and do that. So, you know, we have the training and all that stuff, so, but we have to obviously pay for that person. IT, you may recall when he made his presentation, we have subscribed to the RAVE, which is a RAVE system, which is for an emergency. Like if you guys can go on, and I advocate that you do, go on the website and you can sign up. So that way, if there is an emergency, you'll get an automatic text. That costs $3,500 a year. That was something that the Communications Committee, led by the Selectmen 2 years ago, they really made a big push for. And so we signed, and Ed had just forgot to put it in. But then you'll also recall, because we're doing we're trying to do a new system at town meeting, that annual subscription is $15,000. And we're not gonna have to pay that with the new system, because it'll automatically be included in what we fund at town meeting. I dropped 10,000 because town meeting is in May. It's gonna take some lead time to get the system in, and we can't be without phones until September. So you have to pay probably like a third or so of that subscription, so therefore, that's why we prorated it out. So the net result is to save or reduce $6,500. The education, we reduced it by 72,000, as we discussed earlier.
The school rarely did that on their own,
This,
right?
yep, we asked them, and they did, they took that vote. We did not cut it. It was a school committee vote that did that. Snow removal, we always keep the same amount of money, because you can deficit spend. And so that was just a small error. So I just reduced the 4,700. The Board of Health, they asked for a 3% raise in the elected officials line. They've done that a couple of times, and I've said over and over that I don't think it should only be one. And I also think that, like, if you guys as Finance Committee, somebody should say, look, we're always gonna give everybody, you know, their argument, and I get it, is that if there's a 3% across the board increase, we should get the same. Not an unfair argument, except no, the other elected officials got that don't work full-time. The town clerk is a full-time elected official, but that's different. So like if you guys said, oh, let's give it to everybody, that's fine. But I just didn't think that it was right to just pick and choose. So the Board of Selectmen agreed that we should reduce that. And then the Water Department, if you recall, is that they always come in because their budgets are due, all budgets are due in January, and we do not know what the insurance is going to be, the property insurance is gonna be. And so when I start to receive those rate increase preliminary numbers, usually in the early April area, is when I back into those. So I add a little here, subtract a little there, and as you can see, the net difference was $2,588. So in essence, my recommended to the budget, to the selectmen last night, which they approved, was to reduce the budget by $76,415 from the original requests.
And mine says 86,000.
Because the next one over is your additions.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
Where does snow come in on all this, Dave?
So this year, our snow and ice budget at this point is about $535,000, and we only budget 91 grand.
Right.
So at the end of the year, before we close out, we have to balance, so we will do end-of-year transfers. So we will transfer money that did not get spent somewhere else, and we'll cover it. Now, we're fortunate, because again, we are conservative on our receipts. We're conservative in some areas, and I am always conservative for my benefits budget. I budget as if just about everybody will take health insurance. Not everybody does, but at any time in the middle of the year, they have the legal right to do so, and we must have the money there. So I have some money built in there, so usually that's where we can pull the money from, and we can balance it. Most of the municipalities that don't have that flexibility for whatever reason, what they do is they have to add it to the next year's tax roll. So
Oh.
that 2.5 gets reduced by the difference. Because again, you can only go up 2.5.
Yeah.
So they just add it to the next year's tax roll, and they're like, oh, now we can only go up 2.1. And it
Yikes.
obviously creates a pinch.
Mm.
We've been fortunate, we've not had to do that. All of you have done this before. You know, we all get together in the summer for our 11-minute meeting and do our end-of-year transfers. But fortunately, you've all seen it, and that's how it works.
And we have enough to do this year, because this is a bigger discrepancy than we've seen most years, I think.
So I feel confident
Recently.
that we will have enough,
Okay,
but we haven't closed,
okay,
so I can't, but we should.
okay.
There was a mention of requesting FEMA money. Did we do that, or?
Yep, we did.
Okay.
Whenever there is a state of emergency declared by the governor, or if there was a local state of emergency, for example, when Munson had a tornado a handful of years ago and they declared a local one, is that automatically qualifies you through FEMA to apply for FEMA relief assistance money. And their formula is to review all of the information, and then if money warrants, then they reimburse you at 75%. So we did do that. It was about $300,000 or so for that one storm. Yeah, it was about 300 because it was 2.25 is what we figured. So it's $300,000, so we have submitted all of those receipts to FEMA, and it has been accepted.
Oh, good.
So now they'll review it, but remember, every other state, that
Yes,
declared it.
yeah.
And then the administration then has to determine as to whether or not they're going to fund it. We have not seen, in full disclosure, we have not seen a reimbursement through FEMA this year. And I don't mean Massachusetts, I mean, it just hasn't occurred. So whether or not the administration decides to fund it or not, we don't know. But if they do, we would then receive in a check for, say, around $225,000. It usually takes 12 to 18 months for them to process it. And then that falls to the bottom line as a general fund receipt, and that becomes your free cash the following year.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have a positive impact on
Yes,
this.
no, right, gotcha.
I mean, we did very well with free cash.
We did.
Speaks to your conservative approach.
And the warehouse.
We had some things come online.
Yeah.
But again, I also think that, everything that you do,
Yeah,
there's always a negative impact on someone.
yeah.
But the town, remember, the town rezoned Lincoln Street. It had to accept a TIF agreement to allow them to come in. So we got all of that construction done. and that additional $1 million to eventually, hopefully, $2 million, because as a town, we all said, let's do that. So obviously, I was part of that by bringing it, and because I thought it made sense overall. I recognize there are some negative impacts to it as well.
Mhm.
But yes, Mo, we got the benefit of that this year. The next page, you'll remember, you all get a big packet every month, every meeting. It's kind of laborious to go through, so I condense all of that into one page. All I do is I take the previous information that I just provided you and I put it onto this one page. So you could see the original budget requests. You could see the reductions that I recommended to the board. You could see the vote that the board took, which in this case, ratified my recommendation, but that's not always the case. And then yours is obviously empty because you're gonna vote now on what you're gonna do for your budget.
That was a lot. Any questions on any of that before we,
5
Move
months
forward.
condensed into 20 minutes.
right? A lot of work.
Started there.
It's like Thanksgiving dinner. Takes you
Right.
weeks to prepare it,
Mm.
20 minutes to eat.
Done.
Anybody have any questions on any of the stuff we just went through? Great.
I don't think so.
Obviously,
Nope.
you did an excellent job.
Yes.
So usually what we do is we kind of look at this sheet and this is what we use to vote from. And so the way we usually do it, which if this works for people, I'd like to do again, is to just look through this list and see if anybody wants to talk about any budget in particular, but then vote on the whole thing. So does that approach work for folks?
That way we don't have to do line by line.
Each line by line, yeah. So if we kind of look down through the list, is there any particular budget that people wanted to have more discussion on? We'll do that first. It's kind of the way a moderator does it at town meeting, anything that you want to hold. I can read down the list, or you can just tell me if there are budgets that you wanted to have more discussion on. What do folks think? Do you want me to read them all and you could just say hold if we have any to hold, or?
Having changes.
Right.
Okay,
I don't see any I want held.
okay.
I don't.
I think we all know the ones we want to talk about, but I think Dave did a very nice job
Yeah.
explaining it in those previous ones, so.
Right.
Okay, so, no questions on any of the changes that were made in, the columns aren't labeled,
No.
but the TA, town administrator difference column, okay. So do we wanna just vote on the whole thing?
Sure.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. And then, so I think I need to have a motion, I think it's the 49,000, right?
That is correct, because
Okay.
that will actually be your motion. So your motion would be to approve the budget as presented in the amount of $49,164,355.
It'd be
think it
nice
said
if it would be
49,000.
46,000.
Look at how much money I just saved you.
No, you said it right, I said it wrong.
Oh,
So the
you- oh, okay.
49,164,355. So do we have a motion for that? I mean, I wish it was 43,000, right?
So moved.
Okay, thanks, Mary.
Second.
Thanks, Mo. All those in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
anybody opposed? That was very easy.
Well, because of a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Right,
David.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I mean,
David.
that really is amazing how, it's just such a great summary. Thank you for
Thank you.
doing all that.
Thank you.
Okay, then I think, let's see, that's that, vote on the town budget. Oh, the picture, we're gonna do the picture next.
Sure.
So let's look at the pictures. People always send the best pictures in.
How did we
So-
get this one? How
I'm
does this
sorry?
fall on the finance committee?
Because it's our book.
It is, it's your book.
Oh,
because
our
fair enough,
book.
all right.
it-
All right.
I was
that-
complaining to my wife, I'm like, why do we have to take these pictures?
That budget book is really your report to town.
Got it,
Yeah.
okay. My apologies.
And as
everyone.
usual, all these pictures are stunning, so thank you, whoever took them. Looks like they're labeled here.
Yeah, there.
So what do people like for pictures?
I was kind of partial to the snow because we just had a big snowstorm, but I don't know if anyone wants to remember that.
I don't really want to think about snow, but it is a beautiful
It's a
picture.
beautiful picture.
I'd go with a little more color myself.
You want to go with a little
Nick
more color?
Anderson.
This front one
Well,
here?
Nick has the snow as well, so
Yeah, I mean,
I
he
do,
took-
I
Yeah, Nick's
do
all
like
of
the
them.
color.
Did he
The
take
one that
all
Mary
of these
was talking
pictures?
about.
No, Jessica took one.
Yeah.
Nick Anderson, on this, well, I was looking at the one with the bridge, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think, I
Oh, I
like the
didn't-
one in the
oh,
fall.
the bridge.
The first
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
This
First
one
one's nice
here?
too. Yeah.
It's pretty.
Is this what people
Mhm.
like?
Yeah.
Well, Mary didn't, so I don't wanna override it.
Okay. I know, I do.
Wants to look at
Is it
snow.
a
I
color,
love-
Dave?
I
Color?
It's a pretty
I
picture.
do
Yeah.
love that picture. That was the first one that drew me in, I have to
Me too.
say. But
Yeah.
this
What was
is
that?
kind of nice, right?
This fall picture.
It just makes us feel cold.
It reminds us of the blizzard.
So do we have a motion for, to go with Nick's fall picture on the front of the book
I'll make a
this
motion.
year?
I'll second it.
So it is that one.
And did Mo or Scott second?
No.
Scott? Okay.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so this is our photo. That one right there.
Yep. Okay.
And thank you, everybody who turned in pictures. They're absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
And we appreciate that, because if you relied on me, we'd have a blank page. Okay, so we did the
All right.
picture. Approve the budget message for the book. Is this my thing that I drafted?
Sure,
Yeah.
yep.
Someone just spell my name right? That'd be great.
Did I spell it wrong? Oh my gosh, Scott. I did this in about 5 minutes, but David reviewed it. B-E-A-T-H.
The B-Y is the older Weatherby's.
Oh,
the only Wicker.
B-E-Y.
I'm E-E.
We gotta get that fixed.
You're
Okay.
right. Of course
I
you're
know
right.
that.
Oh, it's
You're right.
B-E-E.
Correct.
Okay, sorry,
The
so I was
old
gonna spell
Weatherby's
it.
was the Wicker store.
And I grew up across the street with a pony in the front
There
yard.
you go.
T-H-E-R-B-E-E.
Yes, thank you.
I'm so
It's quite all
sorry.
right.
Sorry about that.
If that's the worst of it, I'm good.
I know, so do you guys wanna take a few minutes? I don't know if you had time before the meeting to read it, I think we sent it out a little bit on the late side. I did take the liberty of drafting it because we only had this one meeting, and then the book gets printed Monday, I think,
Let's go in the printer tomorrow.
tomorrow. So, do you wanna just go through it?
Can you send me a copy? I'll throw it through my Copilot.
See if I spelled it right. I didn't use Copilot, I should've used Copilot, oh my goodness.
I know, you used the
Right?
you used the Fox app.
I used the Fox app. The Fox
To be
app.
clear, the
Okay,
Jan
okay.
Fox app.
Right.
Yeah, so let me know if you wanna change anything, there would be no hard feelings.
Looks good.
Dave double-checked all the numbers. Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that was all double checked.
Yeah, David double-checked all the numbers. And he double-checked the names,
Stick
but
the name and that'll be fine. Be good.
clearly neither of us knew how to spell your last
It's
name.
quite all right.
Sorry. What do we do?
No, it's great. This is awesome, yeah, thank you so much.
Are you sure? You got
Positive.
really no
Yeah,
hard
it's awesome.
feelings. If there's anything you wanna
Yes,
change.
Nope,
No,
that's
it-
great.
Okay.
Oh, this is what you meant by two.
I'm sorry?
I just realized warrant articles were next.
Yeah, warrant
I
articles are
didn't- it
next.
didn't click to me
Okay.
when you said 2 meetings in one.
So do we have a motion on the Finance Committee Annual Report?
Moved?
Second?
With the change in Scott's name?
Yes,
spelling?
please, yes. If it doesn't, I'm fine.
No, we'll be fine.
Thank you, I'm so
If you gotta be
sorry.
rushed to print it. okay.
Scott Weatherby, AKA Scott Weatherby.
I know. My name is hard to spell wrong, but people still do it.
Wow.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, perfect. That was fast, too. Okay. Warrant articles.
Yeah, so we could do this one of two ways. All of the warrant articles are in front of you with their respective motions.
In detail.
You'll know, you've already seen almost all of these because you saw the capital budgets at a previous meeting. The other ones are all perfunctory, the ones that we do annually, year over year. You've already heard from CPC, so you know what CPC was funding. The only ones you may not have seen, I don't remember if we had them ready yet or not, was there 2 zoning ones, and then one being sponsored from the Board of Selectmen and the Water Commissioners. So, so we can go over those. So I don't know if you want to use the whole warrant, or if you would like,
There's a
is that
summary.
again, I give you a one-page summary.
Yeah.
I love the summary.
It goes into the back of your book, and it is the one that says summary,
I love it.
warrant articles. So this will show you what the request is. It will show you the amount. It will show you the source of funds. Mary, if you're looking for that one page, it's before that.
It's before the warrant
It
article?
is before the.
Oh, sorry.
David, what's the 79,000 for
Maybe
CPC?
go one more.
It's 2
Yep,
pages.
there you are.
I have it.
Thank
It's
you,
right
thank you.
after the other summary.
Oh,
If you
So,
just go there.
Do you, I can answer that. So, the $79,000 is the amount of money that will be collected in CPA funds that are not expended. You know, being on CPC, that they have to go into certain buckets.
Right.
So, for example, one is open space, one is housing, and one is historical preservation.
Right.
So if you want to flip to that page, you will see that there is some money that is going into those respective areas, and they are not being spent. So
Okay.
it's Article 7. Like,
yeah, I see, yeah.
so if you look on the bottom of that
Hmm.
page,
Yep.
Thank you.
just wait till Mark gets there.
Got it.
There you go.
So,
Oh,
you can spend 10%
Right.
on administrative expenses. We've had in the past, we would have a consultant come in and do some of the work.
Right, yeah.
We have not used a consultant for a couple of years, but you have to set that money up because the law is prescriptive as to what we call buckets, as to what the money can
Oh,
go
I
into.
see, but I see,
So,
yeah,
10,750 that we are anticipating of coming in will go into that account.
right.
Open space is 27,900. Historic is 12,900. So because that number is lower, that automatically should inform you that that means that money is being spent for a historical project,
Yeah.
which we know because we're gonna see those warrant articles.
got it.
That's
Right.
why it's different.
Okay.
And so because there is no money being spent from open space and no money being spent for a community housing article, that tells me that when the accountant sets this up, she knows that $27,900, which is 20% of the aggregate amount, is gonna come in, equals that number, it's not being spent, that rolls over year. So I don't know the number, but because we didn't spend any money this year in open space, let's assume we didn't last year or the year before, that totals up to maybe 60,000, 80,000.
Yeah.
So at a future date, if somebody wants to spend $80,000 in open space, instead of borrowing, they can do it because it all just falls year over year after year. So those 4 amounts there total, that's 79,000, I think 900 or
So
450.
it's just appropriating it out of the total.
It is
Yeah.
identifying the amount of receipts to go into their
Into
respective
those
categories.
buckets,
All
right.
right.
What can you use the community housing reserve for?
So,
No?
yeah, so, years ago, we helped our local housing authority. They had some construction work that was being done. They had,
Mm.
I wanna say.
They did balconies or something?
Exactly, they did
that-
some
Oh,
balconies.
yeah, I do remember that.
So,
yeah.
there are other municipalities, you know, like, think of like a Boston or a Fall River or Worcester. They might generate $1 million in that
Mm.
account.
Yeah,
And so they do a lot with affordable housing.
okay. Thank you. Okay. So do you wanna go through and read all these, or do you wanna use the summary page and try to, vote on them that way?
I'd just as soon do it. I mean, we've had folks in here that were there,
Yep,
you know, and proved them. and
yep, except for the zoning
Susan,
ones.
you-
Yeah, don't
I
know the
was
zoning.
on
I
that,
don't know, yeah.
we did I am on that, what do they call it?
But that's
Bylaw
no money.
study.
The bylaw
That's a
study
refer
committee?
to
That's a
voters,
refer to
isn't it?
voters, right, there's no
The-
money involved.
Usually we
Zoning.
do unless they really involve some, like, financial,
Yeah,
stuff.
Mhm.
I think there were very few this year when I was on that committee. They were trying to true up what do you call that? The ADU one.
That's
They were
correct.
trying to true it up because I think, did the state make changes, I think, after
Yeah.
we did ours, right?
Yep.
So we were trying to true up the ADU to what the state requires. It
Requires.
was just like small changes, in that one. And then, what was the other one?
Yep.
Trying to remember what the other
All
one
right,
was.
so, do you wanna,
Sorry.
it's okay, do you wanna go over the zoning ones now?
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe we could just do those, cause then maybe we can just do the rest from here.
So let me explain the ADU one, which is Article
So 26?
26. It's a little confusing.
It is, it was, even to talk about it.
It's a little confusing, so I want to make sure that everybody here understands it. A handful of years ago, at the request of the state, we created an accessory dwelling unit bylaw.
Right.
We put certain restrictions on it, it went to town meeting, it passed. The state then, which we were not anticipating, decided to mandate accessory dwelling units through legislation. Last year, there was some differences and discrepancies between their law and what our bylaw was. Excuse me. For example, one of the discrepancies is that state law mandated that you could have an accessory dwelling unit at a primary home that was not connected to the primary home. Ours had said it had to be connected.
Right.
So if you had a detached garage, you could not put it on top. With the state law, you could. It also meant that you could build it from scratch, right, with your own foundation.
Mhm.
With ours, you couldn't. We have to comply, so last year, we made those changes.
Right.
One of the elements that we did, because I have said this multiple times, and I'll say it again, I think that the MBTA law was maybe the worst piece of legislation I've seen in 20 years. However, the impact on housing is far greater on the ADU than it is on MBTA. Because the MBTA had a cap of around 150 units or so to comply with state law. The ADU now, as envisioned by the state, makes every single-family home eligible to add an ADU. So if you have 2,900 homes, in theory, you can now have 5,800 housing dwellings. Bigger impact
Yeah.
than the ADUs. And it's funny how the intention was the opposite, not just here, but statewide. When we went and we made our changes to the ADU bylaw to comply with state law, what we did was we mandated that the ADUs could only be in residential neighborhoods by zoning. Makes sense. Can't, right?
Right.
The Attorney General's office striked that. And the reason being is because our underlying single-family housing allowed single-family housing in general farming and residential, but also in some places in the business district. So they had to be no less restrictive. So we either had to do one of two things. We had to add ADU into the business district, or we had to strip the business district out of housing. You had to make one or the other, because you had to be consistent. So what we decided to do was to strip housing out of the business area. So therefore, only in the general residential area going forward can you build a house and allow an accessory dwelling unit. So there is consistency, which should pass with state law. One thing I want you to keep in mind is that you already have a house in any district, you're not affected, because it's a pre-existing house. We could talk about pre-existing non-conforming uses or all the time, and we have lots of them.
Right.
Every municipality does. So for example, 106 is a business zoned district, but there's plenty of houses in
Mhm.
106.
Mhm.
So if you have a house in 106, you're grandfathered in. It could stay there for the next 200 years. You could sell it, there's no negative impact. Quite frankly, the person that's living in that house on 106 has a leg up. And the reason being is because they can market it as business.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
usually that commands more money.
Mhm.
And if that business comes in and decides to knock the house down and they can do that. I don't want anyone to get scared because we made this change. that it has an impact on their current dwelling.
Yeah, and when, Tracy did a really good job talking about it, and when she presented it and we went through it, she just knows this stuff, like, really well. And she said, the change that we're making now, we feel is what the voters intended
That is
when we
correct.
made the change last year? Was it
That is
last year?
correct.
It was last year,
So that was sort of the discussion, and the folks around the table were like, we felt like that was what people really intended and the way it was presented previously. This one, I mean, you could argue that there's an impact just because it's permit fees, I guess, but I don't know if folks want to recommend this one way or the other. I guess I'll leave it to this group. If anybody has any thoughts on that. Usually the zoning stuff, unless it has a big financial impact, we usually refer to voters, but we can vote on it if people want to.
Yeah, and I would piggyback on what Jan said, because last year, I didn't hear a single person say, I want ADUs in the business zone.
Yeah,
It was
Right.
just assumed that the ADUs were in the
Yeah.
residential.
yeah,
So that's why I think Jan and Tracy are absolutely correct, because that
Yeah.
was the original intent.
Mhm.
So we think that we're bringing the language back cleaned up with the spirit of what town meeting voted on last year.
mm-hmm,
From a financial impact, yes, there are fees, but I think I also want everybody to keep this in mind. We're gonna be required by state law to have consistency. ADUs have to be allowed in the business district, or housing has to come out of business. That's your choice. We chose to take residential out of business for the reasons that Jan just described.
mm-hmm,
The financial impact is that if you allow housing going forward to remain in the business district, you're going to allow ADUs in the business district. And then obviously, if you increase population, you're gonna have additional increases in expense.
true.
So I think that that's also part of your financial analysis
Mhm.
as you think about it.
Mm-hmm, that's true, yeah, because you are gonna have more kids in the school, or more, fire, police, whatever.
How would I read this adult retirement community and then the different codes that are in there? SPB, SPB.
I don't know if she has the decoder ring in here.
No, but let me take a look at it.
Need a secret decoder
Yeah,
ring.
you need, I know, I struggled with those too, and she
Yeah,
explained
because
them.
even
It
if
was
we
like-
had bylaws.
Is it like special
bylaws
permit?
would be overridden by state law, I'm sure, so.
Yep, so,
I think it was special permit, I think.
so we provided this, table and use chart,
Yeah,
but number 4, manufactured housing, and number 5, adult community retirement, is not affected by this change.
Right.
You're just asking about what those acronyms mean.
Yeah.
See, the changes are the ones that
well,
are.
I mean, to go a step further, how does this ADU law affect the retirement community?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't. But SPB, I believe, is by special permit.
Yeah, that was it.
And the reason being that that's just the way it is, or?
In fact, I think that's special permit by the
Yeah.
planning board, and SA is special permit by the ZBA. I think
Yeah,
is
that's
actually
what it was, yeah.
I'm so sorry, Mo, what were you asking?
Well, I'm thinking in where I live in that community, I can't imagine ADUs would be very accepted in there. I mean, when the state said that, they have a reason that they exempted adult retirement communities that you know of? Or-
I don't think they specifically exempted, it's only allowed on a single-family home.
Oh, okay. That would explain.
So it's
So-
not allowed on apartments, it's not allowed on any multifamily
Right,
home stuff.
correct.
But a
So-
lot of retirement communities have single-family homes.
But ours don't.
No, we don't.
Correct.
No.
Yeah, so the changes are where you see the strikeouts and, the yes and no
Gotcha.
and whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that one isn't changing.
Okay.
And then what was the other?
So, and then the next
other
one is
zoning one?
that the planning board, by state law, has to review special permits in certain situations. I can't tell you exactly which ones they are, I'm not on.
It's in the,
However,
it's
whenever-
in the detailed
Right.
law, yeah.
Whenever they do so when the planning board votes on, say, site plan review, you're doing a house and you're like, hey, I'm gonna put my house here, my garage here, that's just traditional site plan, that is a majority vote. Whenever they do a special permit, that requires a 4/5 vote. So it's a higher threshold, because in essence, you're making some type of additional concession. Many times, we don't have a fifth person because that person can't always be there. And many times we run with only 3 members or 4 members. And so it is unfair to the applicant because they can't vote.
Yeah, that's right.
And quite frankly, many times the applicant says if there's only 4 members, they don't want, God bless you,
Sorry.
they don't want you to take a vote because there's no margin of error. And so,
Bless you.
Excuse me. Sorry. Allergies.
I was gonna say,
Sorry.
are you allergic to the person talking?
No, no.
So, what
Not
we.
yet. Sorry.
So, what the planning board requested and the selectmen agreed and the bylaw study committee reviewed is that the state law allows us to add 1 additional associate member that could be appointed to the planning board by a joint meeting of the selectmen and the planning board. And that person is only available for special permit votes when there is a vacancy or when somebody is not available. So that way you have someone there to take a vote.
Yeah, I do remember.
That
It's
is
kind
a-
of like an alternate juror.
Sure. And it is it's an applicable state law, but it requires town meeting approval to accept it.
Okay.
In essence, that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Any questions about that one? All right.
That was it.
And then the last one, is that what you want to do? Is the last article,
Yeah,
or do you want to go with it?
no, I guess we should look at all the zoning ones and then decide.
Those are the 2 zoning.
Okay.
The third one, the Article 28 isn't?
That is not a zoning.
Oh, okay.
So that will be a special act, but I.
Got it. Okay.
I don't-
Yeah,
I
that
don't-
we should really probably chat about, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Just, you let me know what your what you.
Yeah, why don't we chat about that and then we'll
Okay.
just vote on them all? Does that work for people?
Yes.
Sure.
So, as you are aware, or most of you, I think you're all aware, is that Wayne is planning on retiring at the end of this year. And currently, the water department operates as a standalone, separate entity with 3 elected water commissioners. They do all the, on the water superintendent, they hire that person. The rest of the staff, the Board of Selectmen hire because the office manager and the superintendent is hired by the water commissioners. And the rest of the staff, which are union employees, are hired through the Board of Selectmen. They run their department collecting fees, as we call it enterprise fund, and you vote on that when you vote on the water budget. So that's how they self-fund. We feel like we have an opportunity this year to be able to merge the Department of Public Works with the water department. And part of that is because we also have become fortunate because the person who is in charge of DPW has been a past water superintendent and has all the same licenses as Wayne, which is the amount of licenses you need to carry. So the thought process is to have the entire department merge as to one, is to have one singular Department of Public Works director, and in this case would be Phil. To be clear, I've had the conversation with Phil, but nothing has been discussed with him about money or any of those things, because it's gonna require town meeting approval and a little bit more,
Yeah.
which you'll see in a minute. But, it's too premature. But obviously, we can't be talking about this and him not know. So the idea would be to have him oversee both departments, and then we would retain an assistant highway or DPW superintendent, which we currently have, Mike Hutchinson. And then you would hire an assistant superintendent over the water department to see water functions, because obviously those, they say this all the time and they're entirely right, is that if they do something wrong in the water department, it can certainly negatively affect you because you drink it or you cook with it. So we would have 2 assistants answering to 1 person. The water commissioners, at that point, would still oversee the water department from the standpoint that they would set the water rates, they would manage the budget, they would, if you file for an abatement, if they determine let's work on hydrants as opposed to, whatever, they set the policy for water. Instead of having them get elected or be elected, they would then be appointed from the Board of Selectmen. So the Board of Selectmen would appoint them. The people that are elected would fulfill their current terms, and as those elected terms end, you would transition into an appointment process. So the way that it's envisioned right now is you would have the Board of Selectmen that would appoint the water commissioners. Obviously, they appoint the town administrator. The town administrator still oversees the staff. I would then oversee the DPW director as I do now, but he also oversees water. And the water commissioners will then oversee the operations of the water department. The water revenue will remain. They will still manage that. So we see that as an opportunity. I want to be clear that this is not in my vision, and we haven't done all the work on this yet because it's too premature. Town meeting has to approve it. If town meeting doesn't approve it, then it doesn't approve it. If town meeting does approve it, then the water commissioners and the board of selectmen will then have to say, okay, how exactly are we gonna do this? Like, we're gonna have to write some policies and procedures. It's similar, it's identical to what we do in the Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission is a regulatory board approved and appointed by the Board of Selectmen. Mo, you're on it. You oversee a department head, Tim Hay.
Right.
He's your conservation agent. But Tim Hay reports to me. The Board of Selectmen sign the contract. They determine his working conditions. But you, from a regulatory standpoint, oversee him. And when the commission takes a vote to say, we want to work on this or we want to work on this, Tim carries that out. Like, we don't get involved in that. So it'd be the same thing in the water department. So we think that it's not going to save us money to do it that way, but it's not going to cost us any money. We think that's going to be pretty much a break even. But where it really should save us some money is that through the synergies of the operations. One of the challenges that we have now is that we are forever paving roads that the water department then has to replace a pipe in. That has been going on for years.
Yes, yeah.
And because we always put a 5-year moratorium in place, we are always seemingly giving the water department a waiver. And again, there's no criticism on this.
The
It's
state
just that
does very much the same too.
it's just that the water department has their agendas.
Right.
And they're saying, we're gonna work on hydrants this year and meters this year and pipes this year. But that doesn't always line up with what the highway is doing. And then obviously sometimes there are managerial inefficiencies when you want to be able to share staff and not always the managers see eye to eye on those operations. So we think that this becomes, not only do we think it's more efficient, it's similar to the way most towns operate. Like this, we're not reinventing the wheel on this. Doesn't mean every town operates this way, but more towns operate this way than don't. But, again, it's not like we're brain surgeons and we said, oh, look at what we're doing and we're inventing the wheel. From a process standpoint, the water commissioners have met with the selectmen multiple times, and there is still some reservations from at least one of the water commissioners. So they are still talking about what they're going to present. The Board of Selectmen will be presenting it. My reading of the tea leaves, and I know this is unfair, but I'm trying to be honest and transparent, is that it looks like 2 water commissioners are more in favor and 1 is potentially against. But they haven't taken a vote yet. But we've all been talking about this for close to a year, once Wayne made his announcement he was gonna retire.
Right.
And I was in the meeting when they were, quite frankly, they were having a conversation with Wayne about his contract, and Wayne was adamant that he was gonna retire this year. So, we thought it was an opportunity. So from a process standpoint, this language is gonna be sent over to the water commissioners. They know it conceptually, but they haven't read it yet, but everything that's here is what has been discussed. They will vote on it between now and town meeting. The selectmen have already voted on this and obviously approved it. It will go to town meeting. If town meeting approves it, it is not final in that moment, because it must then because it's a home rule petition, it has to go to the legislature for their approval. The legislative's rules are that they only vote on home rule petitions in odd years.
Of course.
I'm making that up.
You can't
I'm
make
sorry.
this stuff up.
And they only accept home rule petitions in odd years by January. So, we approve it in May of 2026. It will go to the legislature. It will sit on their docket until January of 2027. It will then go through their process. Whenever you talk about a budget and they have amendments and they come out with legislation, that'll be all wrapped up into that. assuming it passes at the legislative level, which usually it does if the town supports it, is that the House and the Senate vote on it through the spring and the summer. The governor normally signs it. I'm anticipating it would formally go into effect in September of 2027 if it gets approved at town meeting. That means from December until September, what I would advocate, and I believe would be the right course of action, is that if Phil is going to accept the position, then what we would do is we would put that person on a term sheet. So we would say, you're gonna work so many hours in water, you're gonna work so many hours in highway, you gotta define that. And the selectmen and the water commissioners will have to sign it, because the water commissioners are still a legal entity until approved by town meeting. Until
By the
approved
legislature, yeah.
Gotcha.
So, that's a little messy.
It's a lot of logistics.
But, again, we're not the first town to do this,
Yeah.
and that's the process.
Mhm.
If it fails, then it fails. It
Right.
just stops. It's life as we all know it. They will then hire a superintendent, which we have budgeted for, and they'll hire someone, and it'll just continue operations the way operations are today.
Got it. Okay. So if we go back to our list, I can find the list again.
Well done, by the way. That was great.
Yeah, I know, you just really can speak to this stuff so well. Do we wanna go kinda down this list and vote on each thing?
You just do as a whole.
Or do it as a whole? Does anybody have any
I don't see any
questions?
questions. I don't have
Yeah,
any questions.
does anybody have any questions on, like, the, free cash expenditures? I think those are on here, right?
They are. They're in the middle. They're under free cash. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
you'll see what they correspond to. So you've already voted on 4, which is the budget. That is the motion
Yeah.
that Jan will read, and that will be in the book. And as I
Yeah.
said earlier in my summation, is that we were transferring 1.9 million to cover that entire hole, which is the 350,000 in addition to it. So you're now seeing that number on the balance sheet.
So there's two, like the CPA funds, transfer, the veteran, they're gonna spend some of those funds on, grave sites and, the preservation of records. Remind me what the
Could you-
OPEB is, the 100,000.
So we do that annually. This is other post-employment benefits.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, the funding, yeah.
Right.
yeah. Then the police web task force fund.
That's every year.
Could you talk a little bit about the 12? Because I don't recall the
12.
state fund $4
Yep.
grand for
Yep.
the infrastructure sidewalk. I know we do it, I just don't remember where.
Yeah, I
it's
think
located.
it's like money we get from, is it meals tax or something, and it goes into this fund for sidewalks,
Yeah,
right?
close. So
Close.
whenever, it is a ride-sharing
Oh,
Ride
the
platform.
ride
sharing,
share,
yeah.
So
yeah.
Got it.
Lyft
All right.
and
Yep,
Uber.
yep.
Although I will tell you that I have now seen that there's legislation that they will take that money as well. So you
Of
may not
course.
see it.
Of course.
That $4,400 is important to their $60 billion budget.
Of
No,
course
just as
they
soon as you
will.
saw it, you heard ride share. I was like, okay,
Yeah,
now
the
I remember now.
ride share. I
So-
knew the money was coming from
So
somewhere.
Scott, my recommendation is you may want to save this page because 20 years from now,
I won't be worried about
it might be
that.
worth something.
Very
So
well,
the,
thank you.
the capital budget items were, money for the sidewalk
Yeah.
fund, the front end loader. I think we kind of reviewed these at a previous
Yeah.
meeting. The phone replacement system, the fire radios and police radios. There's an ambulance, a ladder truck, one of which we're financing, the ladder
That's
truck,
the only
right?
one.
So we're splitting it.
Oh, splitting
Yeah.
it, okay.
So do you want to
Yep.
explain that from, or do you want me to?
Yeah, you can explain it. I don't remember splitting it. I thought we were financing the whole thing, so.
Yep, so at capital budget, we discussed the fact that our ladder truck is gonna go out of certification by 2030. So the fire chief has been, right now it's in 1999. They get certified for 30 years. That's the state decision, that's not ours. And so with that said, he has been looking at when are we going to try to purchase one. Obviously, it's a big money. It's a big dollar.
Yeah,
amount,
it's a lot of
20.7
money.
million. The issue is that every year the price keeps going up. So if we get it approved now, it's gonna take 4 years
Yeah.
Right.
for it to come in.
Yeah.
There's only 2 companies
It's
nationally.
crazy.
Yeah, in fact, it's funny, if you follow, if you Google it, there's only a couple of companies in the country that build them. And right now, at the federal level, the administration is trying to push to get more, because clearly with only 2, there's a huge backlog, and it's increasing price. So you may come across that if you read it, because I think that's one good item, that there's some federal push on this to say we need more competition in this area.
Right.
Anyway, so with that said, my recommendation to the chief was to put it in this year, because if we put it in, once it is approved, we can then order it, and the price gets locked in.
You'll lock in the price.
And the town accountant certifies that the money is available.
Yeah.
So that allows us to lock in the price. It's not our fault it takes 4 years to build it. So that is the deal with the vendor. When I had said it at capital budget, because it was 1.7, I said, what we could do,
Oh,
instead
I
of
do
borrowing
remember
all
this,
of it,
yeah.
is to say every single year, let's make an attempt to put $400,000 against it. So if it takes 4 years to come in, maybe by the end, it's almost all paid, and it's not gonna hurt so bad.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just kinda like creative engineering for
Yeah, I do
financing.
remember this,
So
yeah. It was to try to lock in the price, but maybe not have to
We
finance the whole
don't
thing.
pay up front anyway, do we?
Nope.
It's any
No.
No,
difference.
it's just to lock it in to certify it, that we have the funds.
Gotcha.
So we'll bond it after it
Yeah.
comes in.
Yep.
But I think this gives us a head start.
So,
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
Yep.
to
Mhm.
fund it.
Mhm.
And then there was a police cruiser, police radios, a vehicle for the building inspector.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. A feasibility study for Sally ports. I don't know if people know what those are. I did not, but they're like basically a vestibule
Yeah.
that you would
Open
come in.
space.
It's like locked, and you're in the middle.
Right.
So they're gonna do a feasibility study. I think it was on Roselle and Howard.
Yes.
Do I have the right
No,
schools?
not Howard.
Spring Street?
Spring
Okay,
Street,
Spring
yeah.
Street. So they just wanna do a feasibility study on that, so there was some funds for that. A new intercom system at, the Roselle
And Spring
and
Street.
Spring Street.
Yeah.
From my understanding, it's kinda like the Charlie Brown, like it just doesn't work. And they have a really hard time communicating in those
Yeah.
schools, cause the speaker is just so outdated
how would
and
that
old.
tie in though to the Sally port? So now they're gonna spend all this money on intercom, I'm not saying they don't need it, I
Yep.
understand that.
Yep,
But then they're gonna build a whole new Sally port based on, I'm assuming, a feasibility study that comes forward and,
I think one's protection
Says-
and one's communication.
yeah, I mean, it's
yeah, but isn't the communication based in the Sally port?
I don't believe
I
so.
don't think
I believe it's
so.
the entire
Are you
school,
sure?
yeah, because they were
Pretty
talking about
sure
how
it's
they
the
couldn't
whole
talk
school.
outside to
Yeah.
get the kids in the bus lines and stuff.
Yeah, there's
And
certain
they
It's not
couldn't
places.
connected to the
Maybe
Sally
part
port?
of
I
it.
don't believe
Yeah,
so.
Maybe
it's
part
gotta be,
of
because
it.
people are in that Sally
Yeah.
port,
That was.
and how are they talking?
Yeah, but this
right?
is a bigger thing. This is like the announcements, like when we were kids and you know,
Yeah, no,
salute
no,
the
I
flag
understand
and
that.
all that stuff. So there
think
probably
it
is a
is-
piece
It's
that
definitely-
might
I think so.
cross over there. Yeah, because you're saying like you push the button so you can speak to whoever's in the office to get in,
Yeah.
that piece of
Yeah.
it. So I don't think we talked about that at the,
Right?
you
'Cause
know,
now
if
you're
there
gonna
was any
install
impact.
I think it's a
something,
feasibility.
and now you're gonna build something over that,
I
like,
think it's a feasibility though, Sue, for that Sally
Just for
port.
the
It's not that
feasibility.
if they're setting it
is
up, it's a
just- yeah.
feasibility. But
just,
right now, I think it's the communication for
The-
both
the
Spring
structure
Street
itself.
and, exactly.
Got it.
yeah, it's I guess
Okay.
it's really bad.
oh, yeah,
I think they'll
it
have to
is.
solve for
It
that
is.
when the Sally port
They
goes
will have to
in,
solve
but
for that
I
if they
think
do
it's two
build those
different
Sally
It is bad.
ports.
So
Yeah.
the
It's awful.
feasibility isn't plans, it's what, I'm
It's
just
sure
a
you
study
can
to
do it.
see.
I think it's a study to see what's possible.
It's
Okay.
possible.
And just so you're aware,
I know.
the feasibility study for the Sally Ports is at Roselle and Spring Street. It's at both.
Thank you.
A fire alarm panel at Howard. I think that was it, right?
Yep.
So I don't know if anybody has any other questions on any of those.
Free cash depleted now?
Yes.
He
He's
says in
so
a solemn
sad.
voice.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
have a rainy
between,
day fund too, don't
We do.
we do. we were hoping to put some more in, but that's
We're-
not gonna happen. So between covering the budget gap, and these expenditures here, we will have spent it all, I believe.
Money well
That's
spent.
about 4 million.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is with the free cash is all of this stuff that, to keep our infrastructure modernized, to get new,
CapEx, yeah.
cruisers and all that
Right.
stuff.
Yeah,
We'd have to be
choice.
financing those and paying interest on them if
That's
we
right.
didn't have this free cash, so
Yeah.
we'd have to have a lot more borrowing articles and things, so we're fortunate in, the town is just being managed so well with, the conservatism and people really sticking to their budgets and trying to compromise where they can and keep the costs down. I think, overall, the town's in a pretty good place, but that's my own personal opinion.
And just, as I spoke to you about before, just David's knowledge of
Yeah.
his history of being here
Yeah,
and kind of the predictions and then the, seeing what has happened and then trying to make decisions to determine,
keep us off of the list,
Yeah.
off the map,
Right,
yeah.
so,
Yeah, and I think, one other observation that I have is, you do a great job keeping up with what's going on in other towns too, and trying to learn from that, so I think that's really helpful. So all that said, do we wanna vote on these, do you wanna keep the zoning ones kinda separate and vote on the rest of the warrant articles, or do you wanna vote on everything? You wanna
So we vote on
recommend,
everything.
not a
Do
recommend?
everything.
I'm
Just
sorry.
Just vote on everything.
yeah.
Okay, so I guess I would need a motion to either recommend all of this or not recommend all of this. That's why I was wondering if we wanted to do the zoning ones separate in case we wanna refer some of those to the voters.
I'll make a motion to recommend all the warrant articles.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
Second,
Okay,
That's good.
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Okay, so that worked out great.
and that's in the amount of 4,188,225.
No,
No.
that is only your free cash.
Yeah, it's,
Oh,
cause you
the-
gotta add in
yeah,
the,
yeah.
the borrowing
Sorry, yeah.
piece for the ladder truck.
Gotcha, yeah.
So all in, do we have an all-in figure here? Is it the
Yeah,
52?
52.
52,042,450,
Plus the borrowing.
plus the borrowing, yeah, so it's both of those together. We don't really have a
And,
total.
Well, I did provide,
Of course you did.
there's one additional page here,
More pictures?
kind of.
He's got some nice
Chart-
graphs
chart.
too.
Yeah, because these are all gonna be put into the,
Oh, is it your, your pie charts?
This one, too?
Oh, the
Yeah,
pretty
it's
colors.
yeah,
the
the
Yeah.
pie chart one.
Right after the
Mm.
calendar.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's 53,406, right?
That's the
So-
total.
53,406,050. However, there are two negatives on this sheet. You have to set up, if you look above you, you'll see there's $300,000 in assessors overlay.
Mm-hmm.
And above that, you're gonna see in total cherry
Cherry
sheet
sheet.
charges. Remember what I said, Stace, that
Yeah.
the state is charging the town of West Bridgewater $1.1 million. So you need to raise all sources, $53,406,050 to pay for what you're choosing to pay for, and an additional $1.4 million to pay for your overlay and for your state receipts. So your total budget comes in closer to 55 million when it's all said
55
and done.
million. And, but it's balanced with a 2.5%,
It is balanced.
no overrides.
Yep.
I love the pie charts.
And that'll be in your book at town meeting.
Are we done?
So we don't have to
Um,
vote on color or black and white anymore.
I know.
Oh, yes, I
So we
remember
do
that.
have to
Yes, true.
color?
So Mary,
We used
remember,
to
at one
vote
time
on
we did
color
it,
in black
but
and white.
Yeah, I had to figure out dots and checkers, and it didn't come out very good. And it was literally like $100 more to go to color. And
It was tight that game.
while the state is gonna try to steal the 4 million, I think we
Yeah.
can afford the $100, so, so the,
All those in favor of a color picture on the front?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
No.
Okay. It says, discuss any other items pertaining to annual town meeting. Do we have anything else we need to chat about?
Actually, I do have a quick question. I know it says it starts at 6. Sometimes they do the ceremonies before. Does that mean it starts at 5:45? I know there's confusion when I talk to people of what time
Oh.
they're supposed to be there.
Well, we're supposed to be there at 5:30 because
Right.
we have sort of an open meeting in case there's
Right.
anything
Yeah.
we need to chat about beforehand, but I don't
Sometimes
know,
they
that's a good
start early
question.
with, like,
Yeah,
the Girl Scouts and the Pledge of
Yep.
Allegiance.
that's a good question.
Yep, so the finance committee, we will post you in session at 5:30, so that way, anything that you want to discuss, you can legally do so. And then I always post that you stay in session, so that way if you had to take a vote during town meeting, you could. Mary's entirely correct, is that there's usually pomp and circumstance that starts at around 5:45 to 5:50, and that is the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the singing of the anthem, any of those items. The official town meeting starts at 6, but
Okay.
we always encourage people to get there 15 minutes early for those. But by all means, post on it, 'cause,
Yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense. I didn't know people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just
'cause
don't
we're
have
always
it
there
on
early, yeah.
Last minute. So wait a minute, we already started? I thought it started at 6.
Yeah, no, that's
I
a
mean,
really good question.
I think I would use the example that you go to a Red Sox game and it says first pitch is at 7:11, but they already do the first pitch throwout and the singing of the national anthem, it starts at like 7, right? And sometimes people are still getting their hot dogs and some people are already sitting in the seat.
Are we gonna have hot dogs?
With
this
the
year?
lobster.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Mo, would you pass this along?
That's wild.
Certainly.
Thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
anything else?
And I just want to say thank you to everybody.
Yeah, I was
You
just
know,
gonna say
this
that.
is-
This
It's
is
a lot of
a lot.
nights. You guys volunteer your time. I say that to people all the time that, I think the town is very fortunate that you all come in and you go through all the budgets and you do it on behalf of the town and you each individually have an earnest desire to see the town do well. And again, you don't get paid for this. You do this because you're civic-minded and you want to do the right thing in town and help the town. So, and then you help me, so thank you.
Well, I don't think we could do it without
No.
you and your team there in your office, so.
Does this mean we get cake again? 'Cause it sounded like
I
there's about to
know.
be a cake.
Celebration.
I know, we should have another
I let you
cake.
down.
That was a wonderful cake.
Maybe this summer we'll get some cake when we have to vote on the snow budget transfer.
There you go.
All right, so I think the last thing is to adjourn. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Thanks, Mo.
Second. I got it.
Everybody's gonna second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
No, ma'am.
We are out.